Good morning, I'm Darielle Fair. At one of the state's oldest maximum security prisons, Waupun Correctional Institution, inmates have been under lockdown restrictions for nearly 15 months. Investigators have been looking into poor conditions and staffing shortages at the facility. 4 inmates at Waupun have died after an investigation by the Dodge County Sheriff's Office. Charges were filed against the prison warden and a number of staff members. The charges are in connection to 2 of those deaths, Cameron Williams and Donald Maier. The Sheriff's Office confirmed Donald Maier's death was caused by dehydration and malnutrition. In an exclusive interview with the spokesperson for Maier's family, we're discussing the latest evidence revealed in Maier's death and how they plan to move forward. Joining me on the show today is Jeff Scott Olson, civil rights lawyer. He is currently representing one of the inmates who died due to negligence on behalf of the Waupun Correctional staff. Thank you so much for joining us on the show, Jeff.
My pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about the circumstances that took place around Donald Maier's death on February 22nd of this year?
Well, basically, he was deprived of enough food and water to live on and died.
And can you just talk a little bit more about, I guess, in terms of you representing him as him being your client, can you kind of dive into more of what the findings were in his death?
We're representing his family. When somebody dies as a result of a civil rights violation, their cause of action for their death passes to their estate. And the family, of course, is the beneficiary of the estate. So we're representing his mother and father, who are his next of kin. Over a series of days, Donald Maier was deprived of water and deprived of food. And we've detailed those circumstances in a notice of circumstances of claim that we filed with the Attorney General's office. And I'm sure you can get that from them in a Public Records Act request. His water was turned off in his cell over a period of days, and it was sporadically turned back on. But in a tragic feature of the scenario, he was never told when his water was turned back on, so he was never able to utilize it. He died of cruel and unusual punishment in violation of the 8th Amendment.
What was your response to the Dodge County Sheriff's investigation and what they discovered that contributed to Donald's death leading up to that day?
My colleagues and I have grown cynical about law enforcement over decades of seeing everybody that is considering themselves to be part of the law enforcement community circle the wagons in defense whenever we make a claim against any of them, no matter how egregious the wrongdoing that we're ferreting out. So it's surprising and kind of heartwarming for us to see such a courageous act as a local sheriff's department and a local district attorney bringing criminal charges against correctional officers and officials for this kind of egregious mistreatment of the lowest of the low, prisoners. If the system works for prisoners, it's probably going to work for most of us.
Jeff, what is your response in regards to the individuals that were charged in connection to Donald's death following those investigations?
Well, it just, that probably more than anything else illustrates the courage with which the investigation and the prosecution has been pursued by the Dodge County Sheriff's Department and the Dodge County District Attorney's Office. The fact that they brought criminal charges against a warden shows that they weren't willing to stop at any sort of cronyism or any sort of traditional respect for roles and titles. they were willing to follow the evidence where it went. And I applaud them for that.
And Jeff, you obviously are representing Donald's family. How are they taking in all of this information?
They're dealing with the fact that their son died under such tragic and torturous circumstances. It's unimaginable how a parent is going to feel under those circumstances. I'm sure you and I can't begin to imagine it. But they are not closing themselves into a shell. They're cooperating with us, and they're cooperating with the Sheriff's Department and the District Attorney's Office.
How does Donald Maier's family feel about knowing that the conditions that ultimately led to their son's death are still present in prisons across the state of Wisconsin?
Well, nobody's happy about that, but that's been the case for decades, and it's been getting worse in recent times as the legislature has not funded the prison system up to their political ambitions of incarcerating everybody and his brother. So what we have is too many prisoners, too few guards, too few resources, and eventually that leads to too little will to even provide minimal care for these people in our prison system. But this case provides the Maier family and my firm with a measure of hope that maybe things have hit the bottom here and will start to trend upward now.
Now, with the latest information from Dodge County Sheriff's investigation, kind of outlining the situations that took place that ultimately led up to the events that took place on February 22nd, is Donald Maier's family planning to take legal action against the state?
Yes. We have to name individual defendants in a federal civil rights action. That's just the way the federal civil rights statute is written. But in Wisconsin, because of our state indemnification statute, the state government defends and pays any time that a state employee gets sued for something they did on the job.
Jeff Scott Olson, civil rights attorney and legal representation for Donald Maier's family. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
My pleasure. Thank you. Nice to be here.
President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump meet on the debate stage this week. We'll talk with ABC News political director Rick Klein on what makes this debate different from others and the issues he expects them to focus on.